Just trying to run
Take a breath, Michelle. You can everywhere. Just take it easy.
The legislative session ran
Oh, of course, I know. And you're doing all this hard work.
running hard.
All right, welcome everybody to this press conference today. My name is Toussaint Morrison. I'm a local community organizer, and I'm here for the press conference organized by Communities United Against Police Brutality and the Racial Justice Network to address the police violence that occurred yesterday and the brutalization of several teens in Minneapolis with Robbinsdale Police Department and the Minneapolis Police Department as well. We have several people that are going to speak and address what happened yesterday and also speak to the current temperature of events. We have the Derek Chauvin trial, which a lot of people should not get it, not misread that. It is less for Derek Chauvin and more so a trial for the value of a black life. We are also under a global pandemic. We are also dealing with lots of things here in the city as the world is watching us, especially the Derek Chauvin trial. And it's interesting that after Chief Arredondo gave a message of safety net and all the acronyms of agencies that'll be in town, the result that you get is what we saw yesterday. And I don't know if you saw the video, but I'm hoping that most people did, and you can see the abject failure of police to address whatever it is that they were called to do here in Minneapolis just yesterday. And first up, I'm going to call Billie Jean from Racial Justice Network to speak. Give it up for Billie Jean, y'all.
Hi, I'm Billie Jean Van Knight, and I'm from Racial Justice Network, the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. And we want to say that what we're doing here is trying to make sure that the police officers know that we're still watching them, and the world is watching them closer than ever. So what we're doing is we want everyone to see how this kid was beat and punched, and that's not okay. It doesn't matter. Part of their excuse is that they thought they were someone else. They thought they were the carjackers. And it does not matter if they were the carjackers, which they were not, but if they were, that is no excuse to treat someone like they did. We have to realize that everyone is a human being. Even people that commit crimes are human beings, and that is something that the police seem to be forgetting these days. And that's not okay. The police officer that hit that child, because I don't know about you, but I'm 43 years old, and when I see a teenager, I don't care if you're 19, 18, 17, but this person was under that. This person, I believe, was 15 or 16. You guys remember? They're a child, and that's not okay. And for somebody who is on trial right now, Derek Chauvin is on trial right now for the murder of George Floyd. And those officers that were on his legs and on his torso are going to be on trial. Now, what about those officers that were holding that child when this police officer punched this kid? Now, if we've all heard of the one punch that goes wrong, the one punch that is killed, that kills somebody. What happens if that was the one punch that killed that kid? Now, those police officers that were holding that kid are also on trial for murder and hopefully convicted for murder. And there's no reason for that. So not only should we be upset, but the police officers that are with these police officers that are not doing the right things, that let their anger get control of them, they should be saying to them, no, we're not doing this. Because if you have a hold of somebody and somebody else does something wrong, you're going to jail too. And nobody wants that. And so everybody should be upset about this. The community, the police officers, everyone should be upset about this because this should not be going on. They're going to kill somebody again, and that is not okay. Black lives matter, not just when someone dies. Black lives matter in all aspects. You can't treat people this way. What I want is for people to understand that when you do this to someone, on whatever level, when you disrespect someone like this, when you terrorize someone like this, when you terrorize a community like this, it does not go well. It does not go in your favor. The anger that builds up in everyone, it's going to build up in the community. It builds up in the people that were involved. It builds up in me. It builds up in the community. It builds up in all of us. And the police officers too. Man, are they angry, right? I mean, what is going on that they can't take care of themselves and go through some anger management training and go through something that they can control themselves in these situations and talk to people like they are human beings? We want justice for everyone, and by firing this police officer, that will be justice, because we will be showing people that we're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it anymore. The continual put downs, the continual terrorizing of communities. We deserve to live in our neighborhoods. We deserve to have lives. We deserve to matter. Thank you.
All right. And not only should they be upset, the cops, they should also be ashamed. They should also be disappointed in themselves. There's an entire weight of shame and disappointment that they should have in that showing. And this comes on the heels of Arredondo saying that he's going to bring about more security, more safety to the city of Minneapolis. This comes on the heels of Mayor Fry, who's been an abject failure to create sustainable or affordable housing, saying he's going to create more security and safety throughout the city of Minneapolis. So for that to happen, not only should it upset the officers, it should make them feel shame and disappointment. So to bring up next a brother who is no stranger to this neighborhood, to this part of town, who has been here and been doing work, boots on the ground for a long time. Oh, you want to come up, Michelle? Okay, all right. I was going to have you come up fourth or fifth. Okay, all right. We're going to have Michelle come up, and then we're going to have Mel Reeves afterwards. Give it up for Michelle Gross, yo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Gross, and I'm president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. And I want to lay out some groundwork about this incident. What apparently happened from witness statements is that some young people were involved in carjacking, and they were being followed by the Robbinsdale Police Department. Those individuals, the car pulled over, they ran from the vehicle, and a witness saw the entire incident, said that they ran across two neighbors' yards and then were promptly captured by the police. So the police had those individuals in custody. And some period of time later, approximately 30 to 40 minutes later, police then came across these, the one particular youth in particular, and then a second youth, and they grabbed them, even though the suspects in the carjacking had already been captured. And so these youth were clearly not the correct youth, and people repeatedly, you can see on the video, attempted to clear that up and to say these are not the correct youth. The police conduct during that encounter was so egregious that members of the community came out into the streets. Members of the community came out to express their anger and their frustration and upset. They were calling on the police to wait for these young people's parents to arrive, and those young people's parents were on their way, were on the phone, were down the street, and they were arriving, and the police would not allow that to happen. We understand, though we don't see it on the video, we understand that one of the young men was bitten by a police dog in the buttocks. We do see on the video that the other young man was held by police. His arms were held as another police officer reared up and gave him an extremely hard punch in his head, a dangerous punch. And so this is what we see. Now I want to point out that, of course, we know that we are the epicenter for protests against police violence worldwide. What has happened here around George Floyd kicked off an entire movement around the world. And yet, our legislature fails to make any changes, our city fails to make any changes that would rein these police in. The entirety of the narrative has been all about keeping our nice little buildings safe and all of this kind of stuff like that, but not anything about actually keeping the people safe from police violence. This is unacceptable. What we saw yesterday is but one example, and we will not continue to tolerate it. But I need to lay that out. I also want to point out that we have circulated to you information about the officers involved in this incident. In addition to these officers, there were Hennepin County sheriffs present. We were not able to identify them, but these were the officers we were able to identify, and it includes their records. Just as when police injure or kill someone, they like to list that person's criminal record, we too shall share with you the officers' records. So with that, I will turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
And to quickly address what Michelle was going to list out, the officers that were identified yesterday were Officer Brian Sloat from Robbinsdale PD. He killed Brian Andrin on January 8th of this year. That is a killer cop. He was successfully sued in 2013 for excessive force. The video shows him shoving a juvenile into the car. Bystanders state he punched another juvenile. That is Brian Sloat, S-L-O-A-T, Brian, B-R-I-A-N. Nicholas England, badge 1780 Minneapolis PD, 17 complaints, one resulting in a 40-hour suspension, and the video shows he shoved or punched a juvenile. That is Nicholas England, N-I-C-H-O-L-A-S, England, E-N-G-L-U-N-D, badge number 1780. Another officer was identified, William Gregory, badge number 2450, Minneapolis PD, 6 complaints, video shows him punching a juvenile. Other officers, Yusuf Hassan, badge number 2786, Minneapolis PD, Yusuf, Y-U-S-E-F, Hassan, H-A-S-S-A-N, Richard Knock, badge number 3793, 10 complaints, one resulting in a letter of reprimand. Michael Nelson, badge number 5033, 10 complaints, one is still open. Ricky Plunkett, badge number 5754, Minneapolis PD. Rashad Powell, badge number 5793, Minneapolis PD. John Syeth, badge number 7026, Minneapolis PD, and an unidentified female officer. A little thing about John Syeth is we have him on discovery from the march on 94, where the 646 were arrested. John is on record for saying, I don't want to be pulling up to mental health calls. I don't want to be pulling up to situations that are not the bad guys. I just want to be here to catch the bad guys. And I'll give you a sentiment from myself as a black male growing up in Minneapolis. I've been pulled over jogging. I've been pulled over biking. I've been pulled over walking. I've been pulled over simply for being black, so don't get it twisted. When I say what the movement was, it was simply for being black. And when I am black in Minnesota, that means that it is a threat to your white comfort. It is a threat to your white society. It is a threat to your white fragility. I am not caring for anybody's fragility, feelings, or comfort right now. I'm standing for black lives and the black youth that were terrorized and brutalized at that corner by the PD that day. Mayor Arredondo said, if anybody can look me in the eye and say that 38th in Chicago is committed to community and safety, then we have a problem. I challenge Arredondo to look anybody in the eye. I challenge any police officer to look anybody in the eye. I challenge anybody from this 4th precinct to come out here outside these fences and look me in the eye. That is not a threat. That is a challenge to be a community member. That is a challenge to be a human being. That is a challenge to stop hiding behind your blue line, your badge, and the litany of qualified immunity and BS that you all stand for. That is a challenge to be a human being and engage with us. But you will not find one of them. And yesterday, you did not find one police officer that was willing to be a human to those children. Willing to be a human to those children. Willing to be an adult amongst children. If you watch the video, immediately you see John Syath back people up and protect what's happening and what's about to happen. And behind him, what you see is a young black man nearly on the brink of tears asking for his mother. Who was asking for their mother not too long ago? Who was asking for their mother not too long ago? Say his name. What's his name? What's his name? And that kid, I do not know the name of. And personally, I don't want to have to chant his name in another march. I don't want to have to chant another name of somebody who's been killed by police brutality. Brian Sloat, who recently killed a white man in Robbinsdale, they chant his name. And Brian is still employed. If any one of you behind these cameras or microphones killed somebody in your line of duty, you would not be here right now. I guarantee you that. I guarantee everybody here, if they killed somebody in their line of duty, they would not be here right now. They'd be behind bars. Yet Brian Sloat still walks and runs free and is getting paid by the city of Robbinsdale to brutalize young black children. When we talk about trauma, sometimes, and I think some of the black men here can relate to this, sometimes you may lose it. The volume of your voice may go a little bit above normal, what is perceived as normal. And you are told to address your expression. And this goes for everybody here. And something may have happened to you in the past, something may have happened to you yesterday, may have happened to you a month ago, and it comes up. What happened to these children yesterday is going to be coming up for the rest of their lives. There's nothing that can replace that. I'll never forget the time that I've been brutalized by cops throughout my childhood. I'll never forget it. It'll never decommit itself from my memory. And I guarantee you it will not decommit itself from the memories of those children that were there yesterday. So whenever Dondo says, look me in the eye and tell me that 38th and Chicago is committed to community and safety, we have a problem, I challenge Arredondo to look me in the eye and tell me that he's committed to the safety and community of the city that he was raised in. Arredondo was raised here. He went to Roosevelt High School. He should be ashamed for saying that. He should show up. He should be here right now. Philippe Cunningham is not here right now. Ellison is not here right now. I hope y'all notice that. And if they are, they should raise their hand. Both council members that are here in these wards are not here. They should be standing up for their community members. They should be standing up for these black youth that were terrorized. And as Michelle said, they found the people that had stolen the car, and yet they proceed as business as usual with these other kids. So when we say justice for all stolen lives, we also mean justice for potentially stolen lives. And anybody could have been killed yesterday. You have a killer cop on the job yesterday punching a kid in the face. 8 times, they're saying. And they do it. When we have an intrusive thought, that's one thing. You have an intrusive thought and you take action on it, that's another thing. You have an intrusive thought, you take action, and you expect the world to keep letting you go on doing as you are with permission. That's a problem. That is pathological. That is an issue that needs to be addressed in these police. And if the OPCR isn't going to do it, then these people need to be fired. I challenge Frey and Arredondo to fire all the officers that were engaged in police brutality and violence yesterday. They need to be gone now. You want to talk about accountability? Then let them go. You want to talk about trust? The little that you may have with anybody? Let them go. Show them that you are standing for your community members and fire those officers right now. I'm going to pass off to Mike, to a brother who has been an inspiration to me, a pillar in this community, Mel Reeves. Give it up, y'all.
Good word, brother. As some of you all know, I live right around the corner from here. I'm a north sider, as they say. And as some of the folks standing out here know that I'm also a journalist, but I'm also an activist. And it's not unusual in our community for activists to be journalists as well, because journalists have had to be activists because we've had to tell our story. So don't look at me strange because I'm on the other side of the pen, the other side of the camera right now. I'm disturbed by what happened. I'm glad that Michelle and Brother Tucson articulated it, because I'm going to tell you what I think is going on. I feel like every time I go downtown, I feel like downtown is a provocation. I feel like we're being provoked, right? As a news person, I've gone and sat in a trial, and I've had to go through 3 security checkpoints just to get in the courtroom. Doesn't make any sense. And I keep wondering if the rules keep getting more and more stringent. And I look at the barbed wire, the razor wire, and I say to myself, what is that all about? What I think that's about, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, is I think that's about projecting the idea that the community is violent. Now, the irony of that is the trial is going on because somebody who represents this system has been so violent they killed one of us, right? But yet, they have themselves surrounded by wire and cages, as if we're the violent ones. Just not true. I think in the light of this trial, I think that, and Tucson's right, I think it's time for folks to start, I understand better than most people that the police are part of a system. They're carrying out a certain job. And people want to talk about good and bad cops and all, but it's not about that. They have a job to carry out. And pretty much their job is, on some level, yes it is, to keep us in our place. Yeah, it is. Okay, fine. But, you know, there comes a time when if we're going to be human beings among each other, then we got to sit down and reason. You know, what's going on right now looks like a provocation. In the middle of this trial, where most of the people in our community, I'll tell you, and people nod their head, don't believe that Derek Chauvin will be convicted. Am I wrong? So in the midst of that, we have people who don't believe in this system. In the midst of that, we still have the system terrorizing us. That's a problem. So you see, what we're starting to do is the pot started to boil. And I think this is on purpose. Why would some cops attack a kid? With all that's going on, Derek Chauvin's on trial for killing a man. With all that's going on, why would the police still continue to be brutal? Doesn't make any sense. Even in St. Paul, there was just a press conference before we came here at 1 o'clock. Some cops in St. Paul broke into somebody's house and choked a kid. Why is that going on? What I'm starting to suspect is that this is a provocation. I think that the police, the rank and file police, want our community to bite. They want our community to get so upset that they begin to look like what they're trying to project us as. That's what I think. You can write it down. I think, yes, I think folks are trying to provoke our community into being violent. And I say, if this community, if this city, if this county cannot control its police officers, then it's illegitimate. Because that's his job, right? His job is to protect us and keep things in order. If it can't control its cops, if the city can't do it, the county can't do it, then this is an illegitimate city, an illegitimate county. Right? And we need to call on somebody to come in here who can actually get these people to treat us like human beings. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are. Right. We are human beings. And we're here to tell you we're human beings. We can't keep doing this over and over and over again. At some point, you can't look at the community. People have cameras and put mics in the face of the community. You can't keep doing that. You've got to put the cameras and the mics in the face of the city leaders and ask, why is this continuing to go on? Right? And so we're not stupid. We know if it continues to go on, there's something more sinister behind it. Right? Chief Arredondo said that the other day that they're protectors. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't be protectors and predators at the same time. Right? You can't be protectors and predators at the same time. You can't help us and hurt us at the same time. You got to choose. And he's saying 38th Street is wild because of some things that have happened. But they're not protectors. If they were protectors, we wouldn't be standing here right now. So I'm going to turn the mic over, but I want you all to understand that this is a provocation. We understand what it is. Yep. We understand that the rank and file cops are at war with us. We get that. This doesn't come from the top. I'm not even going to blame Arredondo for this. These are these guys over in these buildings who made their minds up. They're going to do just what the hell they want to do. Now, the kicker is, if they continue to do just what the hell they want to do, you have to answer the question, what kind of society do you live in? You've got to answer the question, not us. If these guys keep doing what they want to do, they keep brutalizing children. I see you're not right, my man. If they keep brutalizing children, you're going to have to ask yourself, well, what kind of police force, what kind of society do I want to live in? Because this can't continue. It absolutely can't continue. Something must be done. So I stand with everybody here, and I denounce the actions of the police yesterday in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I demand that the police, somebody, take control. Somebody's supposed to be in control. The city council, the mayor, somebody tell these guys, tell these cops to cut it out.
All right. Next up, Elijah Darris of the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
Thank you, brother.
I'm glad to see this turnout of those of us who put boots on the ground, Michelle Gross and others who are constantly out here fighting this fight. I tell you this much, don't none of us want to be out here. I mean, so many more things that we can be doing at this particular hour on this particular day, but we are pressed into service to being out here. I literally had to drop every last single thing that I was doing today to get out here. And why? Because we saw a young person brutalized and dehumanized, right? We saw something that we would never see in Edina, right? We would never see it in any of them other predominantly white communities. Imagine a blonde-haired, blue-eyed teenage boy being held by other officers, brutalized with a sucker punch from another officer who reared all the way back and who brought down a towering, powerful punch on someone who was defenseless at the time. Imagine this being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy from Hopkins or Edina, knocked out, and then as he laid on the ground, more punches, more brutalization, and more dehumanization. And so, yeah, we finna come out here. We gonna drop every last single thing and come out here. Do we want to be here? Do we want to be here?
No.
Do we want to be here?
No.
But we gonna show up every single time. Now there is a demand attached to us showing up. The demand is very simple. Terminate them officers. Terminate them officers.
Yes.
Expeditiously, as the brother said. Terminate them officers. There is absolutely no reason in the world why 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them officers should not have grabbed that rogue cop and arrested him for assault and battery. It is absolutely inexcusable that yet once again that blue line stood up and allowed for the dehumanization of another human being, a young boy, a child. It doesn't matter what words he was saying. It don't matter how upset you got. You have a responsibility as a professional. And yet, they violated their professional oath. It's very simple. They violated the policies of the Minneapolis Police Department. And as such, they are now subject to termination. And the level of violation is so extreme that it requires immediate termination. We saw officers assaulting a young man who was being held by multiple other officers. We saw him rear back and knock this young boy out. Every last single one of you saw what we saw. You saw it. You saw him go down on the ground. You saw them get on top of him. Now we demand an immediate termination.
Yes.
Then we can do the investigation later for the other officers involved. But that one right there, he gotta go.
Yes.
He gotta go. He gotta go. He gotta go. He gotta go. Immediately and expeditiously, we demand an immediate termination and an investigation as to what happened. We need to crack and destroy that blue line. That blue line is murderous, it is dangerous, and it is time.
Antonio Williams of the People's Canvas. Give it up.
Yeah, I don't want to be out here. I don't want to be out here, but I'm going to be out here. I'm going to be out here. I'm angry. I'm angry, but I'm tired of being angry.
Come on, brother.
I want my humanity acknowledged. I want my humanity respected.
Yes, sir.
I want my kids' humanity respected, my brothers. Until then, I'm out here.
Yes, sir.
I just want to let y'all know a little something about me. I grew up around here. The north side, the south side of Minneapolis. In foster homes, group homes, treatment centers, all of that. I was brutalized by the police on several occasions. The Minneapolis Police Department. One thing that stands out to me when I see these incidences is the fact that no one comes to stop another officer from doing wrong. But we're the demons, we're the animals, we're the heathens, but yet I can recount time after time, case after case, where my homies, my brothers have stopped me from doing something, where I've stopped mine from doing something. Why can't we get that same thing? My thing is, it's not about just firing these officers. It's not about firing the officers when something happens. It's about changing this system so that this stops happening. It's not gonna stop until this system changes. All these reforms that we're talking about, this system has to go. It has to be recreated. Until then, we're gonna see this again. We will be out here again.
All right.
Not wanting to be.
All right.
But we will be.
All right.
I'm a member of this community. My brothers, my sisters are all members of this community. I fear for their lives. And it's not just the fear that, our white American brothers and sisters can say they have with COVID, with cancer, with accidents on the plane. No. The system that protects you is targeting me.
Tell that.
It's targeting my brothers, my sisters, my child. Simply because I don't look like y'all.
Right.
What are y'all gonna do to help change that?
Right.
That's why we're out here. We can't do it alone. The videos that y'all have seen, George Floyd, Philando, Jamar, they're not stopping nothing.
Right.
These videos aren't stopping anything. Yeah, it's exposing it, but we already knew what this was. What are y'all gonna do to help? That's what I wanna know. And until we get all of y'all help, we're gonna be out here and we're gonna call on y'all. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Antonio. Malika and Chelsea, you come up, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Malika Avon. I'm the Community Strategy Lead at the Legal Rights Center.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Schmitz. I am the Program Director of the Youth Work at the Legal Rights Center. I'm also a juvenile defense attorney.
In addition to the horrible things that we've seen in that video, the issues of police misconduct clearly on display in that video, we also observed a few legal challenges that are really emblematic of the way that our legal system treats Black and brown children, and so we want to make sure that we raise those today too.
As folks talked about, what we saw in this video was a child who was crying and who was scared. And he was surrounded by community members that were begging the police to just wait until his mom arrived to take any further action. And there's just a complete disregard for waiting until this young boy's mom arrives. And we also see these community members asking the police basic legal questions related to identification and advocating for police to stop taking this young boy out of the sight of the public for fear of his safety. And we see all these young people attempting to de-escalate a situation that law enforcement continues to escalate, as folks have talked about, sucker punching, including refusing to answer questions, laughing, rolling their eyes.
You know, when we conduct Know Your Rights trainings for young people in our community, we give them some basic advice. You know, we ask them to do their best to stay calm. We ask them to, assert their right to silence, to ask for an attorney. Those are the things that we saw happening in the video, and the trained officers who are supposed to be helping people, who are supposed to be respecting these young people's rights, are totally turning a blind eye to that. Kids know what it is. They know these power imbalances. We conduct these trainings all the time, and we can't help but say, yeah, we can tell you what your legal rights are, and please do what you have to do to stay alive. And that's just not okay. It's not okay at all.
In Minnesota, kids do not have the right to talk with parents or caregivers prior to being stopped, interrogated, or arrested. And what this means is that our system is set up in a way that gives law enforcement, just like the police in this video, a full opportunity to use their power, intimidation, and physical tactics on our children without any regard to the emotional, physical well-being of youth in our communities. And beyond the statutory problems of failing to require Minnesota police officers to at least notify parents or caregivers of police contact, there's also a very clear illustration of, as we've already talked about, complete physical police brutality. Not only did an officer sucker punch this person multiple times squarely in the face, then officers piled right on top of this young boy.
And so as Chelsea said, you know, there are statutory changes that need to happen, and while we advocate for them at the legislature, the Minneapolis Police Department could change its policies and practices today. If they chose to, they could stop arresting and interrogating children without an attorney present, without their parents present. They could stop just assaulting the children in our community. They could stop putting them in holds. These are all policies that the Minneapolis Police Department could choose to change today if they had the will, if they had the care, if they had the desire to treat our children as the children that they are.
Thank you. Jelani Hussein of CARE.
I'll be very brief. Yesterday was a normal day in Minneapolis, and I'll explain why. It's a normal day in Minneapolis because the law enforcement here in the city of Minneapolis, show up into our community because they have been trained to be warriors, not peacekeepers. So yesterday when they showed up that exact same way on 38th in Chicago. They showed up that same exact way when they treated the unhoused people just a week ago. And that is exactly the way they showed up when they killed Brutality. Yesterday was a normal day in Minneapolis because our law enforcement showed up and targeted our youth as they do all the time. And in this case, as others have already said, you see clearly that the youth are de-escalating the situation, not the police officers. That the youth were de-escalating, not the actual law enforcement who were supposed to de-escalate the situation. There was no de-escalation of that incident by any police officers who showed up yesterday. Additionally to that, you all saw clearly a defenseless youth in prone position being assaulted with punches, as others have said now, 8 times. This is the form of brutality. And so we've all heard that there is changes coming, but change has not come. They are acting like cowboys and not coming to our community to protect our youth, but instead bring harm to our community. And so we are asking today very clearly, number one, to fire the officer who punched our youth and to investigate all of the other officers involved in this incident. But we also want not only all their names released, but we want the body camera footage also to be released. We want transparency and accountability, and we demand Mayor Fry and Rondo to act now. Right now. We're not waiting for tomorrow. We are acting for right now. It is unfortunate that in this day that our youth are going to be traumatized by this incident. But this is the reality of Minneapolis. What's happening in the courthouse right now is exactly what is happening all over this city. Yesterday, Minneapolis police showed up, terrorized and brutalized our youth, and we are asking now for the citizens of this city to demand justice for this youth and the many countless who have come under the same type of brutality in darkness that many of us don't know. And we do not trust the current system because the Office of Police Misconduct does not bring justice. They have the worst record of holding police officers accountable, not even 0.5% over 3,000 incidents since the inception of this department. So I'll fire the officer, investigate all of them, release the body cam now.